Hi, this is Live Shapers of Primal Fear.
This is Heather Michelle from Grave Shadow.
What's up? This is Parker Jameson from the band Starkill.
This is Diana van Giersbergen from Xandria.
This is Albadar from Winterham, and you're listening to the Great Metal Debate Podcast.
Welcome back to the podcast, metal fans. Today we've got Eligio Tapia from California melodic death metalers Crepuscle. Thank you so much, Eligio, for joining us today on the Great Metal Debate podcast.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here and answer any and all questions.
Well, before we get into those type of questions, I understand that you all had a recent live performance at the beginning of this month. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, we played at this place called The Caravan in San Jose, California. It was our friend's birthday show, and it's a very small bar, but has a lot of character, and a lot of people came out, so it was a great, sweaty experience, as we like to experience.
Obviously, a musician wants to play in front of as many fans as they possibly can, but do you kind of like those small, sweaty bars?
Absolutely. I think those small, sweaty bars tend to be the best gigs because we're right there all as one. Usually there's no stage, so we're playing on the floor, and we're all just rocking out, having a good time. And I think most of us would agree that those are the best gigs.
Eye to eye with the fans. That's great.
Absolutely.
I'm always curious about local music scenes, and you all are from out in the San Francisco Bay Area, correct?
Correct, yes.
What's the metal scene like out there?
It's very diverse out here. There's a lot of everything. Right now, there's a lot of tech death going on, a lot of brutal death metal and slam. So we're, at this point, kind of the oddballs, doing the melodic death metal stuff. But there are a few other bands kind of within the same realm. But there's a lot of everything, and everyone's very supportive of each other, and a lot of people like to go to each other's shows and that sort of thing. So it's really cool. I really like what I'm seeing, and I would say that the Bay Area metal scene is thriving right now.
Well, at least on the east side of the Mississippi, we don't hear too much about those bands. Are there any particular artists we might not know about that you think we should check out?
Sure. Right now I'm really into this band called Cyborg Octopus. They're kind of a mixture of everything out there, and they're a lot of fun live. They're probably one of the best live bands I've seen from the area, so I'd highly recommend them, as well as our friends in Raiju, kind of on the progressive end of the spectrum, and Among the Torrent is another band that we play with frequently. They have some similar elements that we do, but they're doing their own thing. So I'd say those right now are kind of or at least my favorite of the local bands.
I haven't heard of any of those, so I'm definitely going to check them out. Let's talk a little bit about Crepuscle. I have had the pleasure of checking out your band, and indeed we played one of your songs, Shattered Sanctum, on our podcast. For folks who haven't had the pleasure of seeing the band perform live or even listening to the music, you've already alluded to that the style fits generally in that melodic death metal genre, but that can cover a lot of ground. How would you describe your style?
I think for Crepuscle, we use melodic death metal kind of as the general term, but we do have elements of black metal, some elements of folk metal, which will be much more present in our future releases. So we kind of incorporate all this, everything that we like, and we put it into our music. But I think, in general, melodic death metal is just the easiest way to describe it. We also have a very strong symphonic element. We have a lot of the the strings and choirs and stuff like that, as well as elements of Baroque era music, Renaissance stuff. So we try to incorporate everything that we like and kind of write what we want to listen to, pretty much.
That sounds like an apt description of your style, style on full display on your first initial album, Draconian Winter, released, I think, in 2014. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Yes. So just give us a thumbnail sketch of how that album came to be.
Oh, okay. Well, basically, before Crepuscle became Crepuscle, we were called Draconian Winter, and many of those songs were written or existed in some form during that era. Once it got down to just me being the only original member, that's when I decided to change the name and kind of update some of the songs to more of a modern, more of what I was doing at the time, you know, kind of give them a modern approach, or more mature, I guess, approach. So those were written throughout the years, and we started recording the album in 2010, so it took us about 4 years worth of recording to finally put the thing out, but it wasn't 4 years of day in, day out recording. There were a lot of factors that resulted in the delay of it being completed, but ultimately I had the vision, and I knew what it needed to sound like, so we waited until the time was right, I think. But yeah, it was quite the process, and all that said, you know, I'm very proud with what we ended up with.
And what was the response from fans and critics when that first came out?
We received a lot of praise from fans, friends, a lot of the people who were with us during the whole journey. You know, they were really happy to see it come through, and we got a lot of positive reviews as well online. And the thing about music is you do it for yourself, but it's always really nice to see some positive feedback. And it was very, very rewarding, and it made the 4 years plus of hard work very much worth it.
You are the vocalist and guitarist for the band. Tell us about the other musicians who make up this group.
Sure. We have Cameron Stuckey on guitar. He's also a guitar. We have Aaron Robish on keyboards, Gavin Devon on bass, and JB Schuler on drums.
So a 5-piece?
Yes, we're a 5-piece.
Are you all able to go out on when you appear live? Are you able to do that generally together, or on occasion do you have to have someone fill in on an odd night out?
Yeah, actually, that's a great question. So we do try to have the full lineup, but our other guitarist Cameron is in a very active touring band called Letters from the Fire. So when he is doing stuff with them, whether it's touring or recording or anything of that nature, we usually do have a fill-in guitarist, and it's not ideal, but it works out, and that way he's able to be active in both bands, and we're able to still continue to be active. So that's the only thing we've kind of ever done. But typically, we try to keep the full lineup, so if one guy can't do a show, we'll generally turn it down. But yeah, that's kind of the approach we take.
What have you been able to do in terms of touring, and have you had the opportunity to open for any name acts?
Yes. So we have not gone on tour yet. We figure since we're a fairly new band, we'd wait for the right time. But we have played around in our area. We've played in the Bay Area. You know everything that it includes. The furthest shows we played were with our good friends in Grave Shadow in Sacramento and in Orangevale. So those are probably the furthest gigs we've played. But we did have the honor of opening for the Russian folk metal band Arcona back in 2013. Yeah, that was unfortunately there were many factors that made it a rough gig for us, but it was still awesome to be playing in front of the huge Arcona banner. So that was still probably one of my favorite experiences.
Talk about a great band to play with. My goodness, some great folk influences, that pagan metal band. That's awesome.
Absolutely. And we were all going to go to that show anyway, so it just worked out that we were able to open up.
That's the best. It's a band that you enjoy and would pay to see regardless, and you get to be the opening act.
Exactly. That was a great time.
Well, let's move on to talk about the new album that I know you've been working on. How long has that album been in the works?
Well, so right now what we're doing is we're about to release, or we're working on an acoustic version of our first album, which we've been working on now for a couple of years. Pretty much since, I guess, the first album came out. The way that came to be was Cameron and I was going to go to Berklee School of Music in Massachusetts, and he had a going away party, and he had contacted me a few hours before that and asked me if we wanted to play some of our songs clean, and without any rehearsal or anything. We just went and did it, and it was so much fun and very inspiring that I decided that every song deserved that treatment. And I guess not too long after that, I started really working on the acoustic arrangements, and it had to be reimagined for some parts, because some parts on the original, a lot of blast beats and really fast stuff going on, so that obviously had to be reimagined to be translated onto acoustic guitars. So right now we're still very much in the recording process of that, but we're going to premiere the material this Friday, actually. So a lot of our friends have not heard what we're doing, so there's a lot of excitement, I think, for them as well as for us. This show is going to be just Cameron and myself, just for logistical reasons, but yeah, we're really excited, and we're not very good at sticking to deadlines, so we're not really sure when it's going to be out.
That's a different direction than many melodic death metal bands would take. What do you think the challenges will be? Do you envision integrating some acoustic along with the more metal versions of these songs, or kind of how do you see that working out in the future in a live context?
I think I would be very open to that, but that would require us to bring a bunch more guitars to shows, so that might not be possible. I think in the future we would probably just do specifically acoustic shows and then specifically metal shows, and we would make sure it's very clear which it's going to be. That way, you know, somebody who may enjoy the acoustic stuff and not so much the metal stuff doesn't show up to a sweaty bar and gets a surprise. But I think that's probably the route we're going to take, just make very specific gigs for each style.
And I have to ask, in this reimagining process, did you find that elements of Draconian Winter that you were able to bring out that maybe weren't as emphasized on the metal version?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that was the best thing about doing this, and why I really wanted to do this was because for that reason exactly. On the metal version, I'm very proud of how it sounds. I think the production is really good, but there's a lot of stuff that got lost in the mix. Like, the guitars are a little muddy at times just because there's so much going on. So this was a chance to bring some of that stuff out and really let some of the melodies shine that are a little bit on the subtle side on the metal album, but on the acoustic version they will be much more present. And I even had the opportunity to expand on some of those melodies or write more melodies for certain parts. And I think and I've talked to Cameron about this a few times, it's hard to tell, or it's hard to decide which versions I prefer. I mean, just because both are great, and I think the fact that we're able to do something so different, for some songs I kind of prefer the acoustic version, but you know, that's going to be for everybody to decide. And I would not be offended if our friends prefer the acoustic version, because I think it's that good, and I think it will stand up on its own, and yeah, it's very exciting.
Do you have a different name for this album? How are you going to market this?
We have not decided yet, and that's something that I've been thinking about. So I think we'll probably discuss that a bit more amongst ourselves and see how we proceed. But I think it would make sense to make it obvious that it is an acoustic version of the first album and not an entirely new set of songs, I guess. Although some songs definitely sound like new songs just because of the new approach, but they are based off of the metal version. So we haven't really figured that one out yet.
Is label support something you're seeking, or do you find that at this point being an independent artist is just the best way for you folks to go?
I don't think we're entirely against label support. I think for this particular endeavor, it will be self-released again. But once it comes to releasing our next metal album, I think we are very much open to trying to team up with a label or a group of people that can help us reach a wider audience. And we are concurrently also rehearsing the next metal album, so hopefully it won't be 4 years, but we never know. The way we do things is we want it to be done right, so and we want it to be bigger this time. So I think if there is label interest and terms are good for both parties, we would not be against that at all.
I have to ask about that, the new writing process. You mentioned earlier that you might be integrating even some more folk elements. What can you give fans just a little bit of an idea about, a little taste about what you're working on as far as that new material that you're writing?
Sure, absolutely. Well, a lot of the stuff that we listen to ends up kind of in our writing style. So at the time, I think I was listening to a lot of stuff like Antiferum, Moon Sorrow, and stuff that I've always been listening to, but I think that type of influence is going to be much more present in this newer stuff. Definitely Equilibrium, stuff of that nature. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see what kind of reactions we get, because we're definitely open to incorporating different influences. But we'll see if people are open to accepting these different influences. But we're excited, and we still have what I would say is the sound that we achieved on the first album. Like, there's still those elements, the melodic death elements, some black metal elements, but we're just experimenting a little bit, and there's even some doom elements in a few songs. So the next metal album is going to have a lot of everything, and it's going to be all over the place, yet cohesive, I believe.
Sounds like you guys aren't afraid to try new things and venture out there.
Yeah, absolutely. We're trying to explore what we can do within the realm of Crepuscle, and I think it's a great way to keep everything fresh and exciting. And I'm in time. I wish we could get it out sooner, but it just has to be right. The time has to be right, and the album needs to sound as best as it can. So hopefully we'll start some form of recording next year, and we can get that process going. But as of now, we are rehearsing that material, and we have played 2 of those songs live at this point, and we've gotten good reactions, and we will continue to play them at select shows, trying to give our friends and fans a taste of what is to come. Yeah, we're very excited for that.
Finishing up with you today, Eligio, tell fans exactly how they can get their hands on any music and merchandise from Crepuscle.
Sure. The best way to do it would be to go on our Bandcamp page, which is crepuscle.bandcamp.com. Any of our merch and physical copies are available there, and yours truly makes his way to the post office with said items. So that's probably the easiest way. That or going to a show, and if they're in the area. And if the other option would be to stream it for free. We have it up on YouTube. We have our album on Spotify. It can also be streamed on Bandcamp. So there are several different avenues, and we encourage listeners to explore them all. And if they like what they hear, pick up a copy or order a shirt, and it'll be on its way.
Well, I hope our fans will do that. I've heard this Draconian Winter album, so impressive. I remember when we played Shattered Sanctum on our podcast, I was really blown away by it, and I'll be honest, I'm incredibly intrigued to hear the acoustic versions of these songs. That's going to be a real treat.
Well, thank you very much, and I'll be sure to send those your way once they're ready.
Well, Eligio, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today on the Great Metal Debate podcast.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you for the great questions, and I'll be listening.